What's up guys, and welcome to another episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Character Profiles. This week we're doing Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, and we're doing Seto Kaiba.
Why did you do that?
For him. The Pharaoh.
In the English, his name is Seto Kaiba, whereas in the Japanese, it's pretty much the same. His age is 18 in the international version, whereas in the Japanese, it's 16. His anime debut was in Yu-Gi-Oh! Episode 1, The Heart of the Cards. Or, for the more retro fans, his green-haired Toei version's anime debut was in Yu-Gi-Oh! Toei, Episode 3, Clash, the Strongest Monster. Kaiba had 28 duels shown throughout the Duel Monsters series and movies. Out of those 28 duels that he had, 20 were wins, 5 were losses, 1 was a draw, and 2 were DNFs. One thing I want to point out from the Dark Side of Dimensions movie is that one of Kaiba's DNFs was to a solo Yugimoto. We actually didn't find out how the conclusion to this duel was going to play out because Igami jumped in at the last minute and interrupted it. However, Kaiba does this grin, and he also has a face down card.
Kaiba!
Could this have been evidence to show that Kaiba was in fact now a stronger duelist than Yugimoto, and that the only person that he truly needed to duel to test his might was against the Pharaoh? It does make the mind ponder. Regardless, if we tally up all the results of his wins and losses, we get a duel score of 66 points. Seto Kaiba serves as the main rival to Yugimoto, the protagonist of the first series of Yu-Gi-Oh! Kaiba's motives are that of someone who will do anything to gain more power and stature in the world, thinking very little of the others around him, albeit for his younger brother, Mokuba. In fact, out of all the people Kaiba shows a disdain for throughout the series, I think it's worth mentioning Kaiba's specific feelings for that of Joey Wheeler, as if you're a dub watcher, then you might have noticed Kaiba throw a little bit of shade towards Joey every now and then.
You are worthless, and you shouldn't have been in my tournament in the first place. Now then, go ahead and make your move, cause you've wasted enough of my time already!
In the original Japanese, this hostility isn't as prevalent. Kaiba indeed does talk down to Joey in the Japanese, however he only seems to care very little for him because he has not proved his worth as a duelist. Or as Seto Kaiba tells me every day on Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links,
you're a third-rate duelist with a fourth-rate deck.
Interestingly, it is only after Joey's duel against Marik in the Japanese that he proves himself as a true duelist to Kaiba, as not only was Joey able to push Marik to use the third hidden ability of the Winged Dragon of Ra, but had Joey not passed out from the exhaustion of the duel, he would have defeated Marik there and then. Through these actions, Joey earns Kaiba's respect, and proves that Kaiba sees value in actions over simple words. In fact, speaking of proving yourself in a duel, we actually see later on in the series that Kaiba develops a almost complex of proving that he is the greatest duelist in all the world, with one of his greatest motivations in life being that of defeating the Pharaoh in a duel. I mean, the man did develop a time machine just so he could go back in time to duel the Pharaoh. I mean, fair play. The very first introduction to Kaiba we see in the series is his attempt to buy the rare Blue Eyes White Dragon card from Solomon Muto. However, unfortunately, when Solomon refuses to sell the card to Kaiba, he resorts to kidnapping and tears the card in half so that it can't be used against him. Yugi duels Kaiba over this act, and after he is defeated, Yugi uses a mind crush on him to expel the evil within his heart. It's unclear if Kaiba was possessed by something sinister, or if after quite a harsh and cruel upbringing, this darkness naturally accumulated within him. However, interestingly, in the manga, the mind crush Yugi uses is more of a punishment rather than an exorcism, as the mind crush shatters Kaiba's heart, which, although it does get rid of any evil, it does force Kaiba into an everlasting coma until he is able to reassemble his heart, which, upon completion, he would be able to wake from. Yeah, manga Yami Yugi did not mess around, did he? It's worth noting an interesting symbolic metaphor with Kaiba ripping what could have been Yugi's inheritance, as according to some interviews with Kazuki Takahashi, the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh!, it was in fact Yugi who was originally meant to wield the Blue Eyes White Dragon as his signature card. So if we look at this moment, it's almost as if Kaiba's saying, haha Yugi, you're absolutely not having this card. it's mine now. In terms of Kaiba's character design, he's gone through a few iterations throughout the series, with him initially being shown in his Domino High School uniform. Later on, in Duelist Kingdom, he adopts a shirt with a dark blue trench coat, which is then followed by his iconic Battle City design, featuring a black t-shirt, long white coat, and possibly taking a page out of Yugi's fashion sense, he now has a bunch of belts strapped to him, because why not? And I guess there are a few other looks he sported throughout the series, but nothing as iconic as these. In terms of the conception of Seto Kaiba, this occurred when Kazuki Takahashi heard a story from a friend of his about a cocky card game player. Supposedly, his friend asked a man for some advice about a card game. However, the man simply scoffed at him and said to come back when he had collected over 10,000 cards. After hearing this story, he thought it would make a very interesting character in an anime. And as well, the name of Seto is inspired by an ancient Egyptian deity known as Set, which was the Egyptian god of war, chaos, and storms. It is never touched on in the series, but both Seto's and Mokuba's parents died at a very young age. Now being homeless, they were sent to an orphanage. During their time there, Seto and Mokuba made friends with many of the other orphans. They played games with them and even created a miniature theme park out of sand. In fact, Seto vowed to bring this theme park into the real world one day and would allow all of the orphans there to visit for free. Despite he and his brother's setbacks in life, Seto was still determined to achieve a better life for he and his brother. So, when the world chess champion and CEO of Kaiba Corp walked into the orphanage for a publicity stunt, Seto saw an opportunity. He challenged Gozaboru Kaiba to a game of chess. The stakes: if Seto won, Gozaboru would have to adopt he and Mokuba. Fearing the media backlash at refusing a chess duel against a mere child, Gozaboru accepted and ultimately lost. True to his word, he adopted Seto and Mokuba, but life for Seto after this event was never kind. In fact, Mokuba once said that after they left the orphanage, Seto rarely ever smiled again. Gozaboru was a wicked father to Seto, grooming him into the next heir of Kaiba Corp. He would force him to study all day and all night, the luxuries of any child stripped away in the pursuit of his perfection. One day, Gozaboru gave Seto a challenge. He would give him 2% of Kaiba Corp's shares, with the condition that he could spend it however he liked, but he must return 100-fold profit within the year. Seto achieved this goal the very next day. After spending much time with Gozaboru, Seto realised how truly evil he was, and decided to take over the company for himself. He did this by slowly acquiring 51% of Kaiba Corp's shares through the use of the Big Five, and eventually kicked out Gozaboru, where in the Japanese, Gozaboru, humiliated by this event, actually takes his own life. Now with Kaiba at the helm of one of the most powerful and wealthiest companies in the world, he began to set his sights at conquering the world of gaming. He turned the weapon-focused Kaiba Corp into a gaming industry and began to pursue becoming king of games. It is here that he meets Yugimoto, the Pharaoh, and how the start of the Yu-Gi-Oh series kicks off. Oh, and he was also the reincarnation of an ancient Egyptian priest called Priest Seto, but that's a long story, let's not get into it right now. Kaiba's playstyle revolves around getting out high attack point monsters and using these beat sticks to dominate his opponents through overwhelming strength. This playstyle is known in the real world as a beatdown strategy. It is even referenced as one of Kaiba's skills in Duel Links. It would be easy to make the mistake and say Kaiba plays a Blue Eyes deck. However, this isn't necessarily the case, as while he does run 3 of his signature Blue Eyes White Dragons in his deck, and their fused form, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, for the most part, this is where the Blue Eyes engine ends. In fact, Kaiba's first deck is pretty random, playing mainly ferocious looking monsters with high attack power. None of them really follow any kind of attribute or typing trends like more modern decks. Some of these iconic monsters he played were Battle Ox, Judgeman, and Rude Kaiser. However, he did play some light dragon support, I suppose, in the form of Lord of D and its accompanying spell card, the Flute of Summoning Dragon. A strategy early series Kaiba used to implement in his deck was that of his Virus Trap Crush card. He used to use this to remove any and all powerful monsters from his opponent's deck to ensure that he wielded the mightiest monster on the field to further cement his superiority in a duel. If we were to fast forward to his Battle City deck, we now have some more notable additions to his deck. Kaiba was a very technologically savvy guy. He began incorporating some machine-based union monsters such as X, Y, and Z Metal Tank that, when combined, could make the XYZ Dragon Cannon. He also used more high-level monster support like Kaiser Seahorse, Costown, and soul exchange. And of course, during this time period, he temporarily wielded the might of the Egyptian god Obelisk the Tormentor. Kaiba's spells and traps also began to develop during this time. Some of his iconic cards being Enemy Controller, Shrink, Ring of Destruction, Ring of Defense, and the extremely broken anime spell card, Card of Demise, which would let him draw up to 5 cards, then only after 5 turns passed would he have to throw whatever was left in his hand into the grave. I think out of the entirety of the anime, we never saw the negatives of this card. I think the only time we ever saw this, out of the 7 uses that this card had, was in the Pyramid of Light movie. That was the only time. Anyway, after Battle City, Kaiba's deck becomes more dragon oriented, with new cards like Different Dimension Dragon, Thunder Dragon, Paladin of White Dragon, and Vampire Lord. I don't know why he played Vampire Lord. I guess it kind of just goes with the deck destruction strategies like the virus cards, but I mean, alright. And he also played the Fang of Critias and its fused forms, Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon, Doom Virus Dragon, Mirror Force Dragon, and Tyrant Burst Dragon. He also played some other boss monsters like Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End, Blue Eyes Shining Dragon in the Pyramid of Light movie, and in the latest film, Dark Side of Dimensions, he now actually has a full-on Blue Eyes White Dragon deck, with new cards such as Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, Deep Eyes White Dragon, Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon, and Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. And with that, guys, that is another episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Character Profiles done. I hope you all enjoyed. I want to give a massive shout out now to the people that are supporting us on Patreon and YouTube. Thank you to my Platinum Patreon backers, Yugioh97, J24092, Terrence Harrod, as well as to my Gold and YouTube backers, Silver Defender, David Shanahan, Shogun, Goosey Q, Genetically Engineered Panda, Matthew Braithwaite, Chungming Zen, James Forge, and Yudu. Guys, thank you very much for supporting the channel, and thank you to everybody else that is supporting and helping to keep the lights on over here. Guys, thank you all for watching. Catch you later.